Have you ever been annoyed by the little flies hovering above rotting fruit? You know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the flies that bite you. I'm talking about the little ones near peeled or rotten fruit. You don't even hear them, but somehow they manage to annoy you. Have you ever been so bothered that you try to swat them? Don't be shy, it's okay if you have. I used to try to catch and kill them with my hands, but not anymore. I'm here to tell you that this annoying little guy might be one of our only hopes to cure many brain disorders. I'm a postdoc in biology and biological engineering. I did my graduate work in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at UCLA. I designed and manufactured tiny devices called gyroscopes, which are inertial sensors that help airplanes and submarines find their way in the GPS-denied environment. As part of my PhD, I came up with a novel manufacturing technique, which led to sensors comparable to the ones that we have in flying Boeing 777, but orders of magnitude cheaper. I remember a little over 2 years ago, I was at the tail end of my PhD, banging my head against the wall to find a job that excited me. I only had two criteria. It had to be a postdoc because I wanted to be a professor, and nowadays doing a postdoc is pretty much required for anyone who wants to find a decent position. Two, I wanted to be different from what I did in my PhD. I wanted to diversify. I wanted to do something that I could really feel. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon. I was looking at different professors' websites to see if I can find a position. I got bored from searching and not finding anything. I took a break and started watching random TED Talks. The second video that YouTube suggested was a talk from Michael Dickinson, a neuroscientist who was at the University of Washington at the time. I was fascinated by his talk and how he bridged biology with the computational sciences to study flies. I looked him up. I found a recent paper from him describing how flies use a technique called path integration for searching food. Reading the paper rang a bell in my head. I realized what flies do with their brain of only 100,000 cells is very, very similar to the technique that we use for navigation in GPS-denied environment, the technique that actually uses the very devices that I studied extensively for my PhD. I was immediately impassioned by the prospect of expanding my expertise into neuroscience. I had my aha moment. I said, this is the guy that I want to work with. I thought I found my calling. I emailed Michael. There was only one little problem. I knew nothing about biology. And I was very honest about it. In the email, I said, I'm pretty good in modeling complex dynamical systems. I'm pretty good in control theory and computational sciences. But to be absolutely clear, it's been well over a decade since the last time I sat through a biology course. After I sent the email, I was anxiously waiting for the response. Then I read the email to myself over and over again. I said, I might have been a little too honest. There's no way that this guy would reply back. On my way back home, I got a notification on my cell phone. He actually replied. He seemed pretty interested. He Skyped. He invited me to give a talk at Caltech. Everything went great. He offered me a position. I started as a postdoc in his lab. Choosing Michael's lab wasn't really the safe choice, but it was the one that I was more excited about the most. As a postdoc, I study one of the most complex behaviors that animals do in their daily life, which is foraging. Foraging usually relies on a combination of internal and external cues. As I told you before, animals use a mechanism called path integration for handling part of the information that they receive from the environment. Studying path integration is actually our window to the animal's brain, which will help us to understand how various cells in our brain function. Given the importance of the question in hand, many researchers have studied this behavior in the past decades. However, progress has been hindered by the complexity of mammalian brain, which has been the focus of the recent studies. A couple of years ago, our lab found out that these annoying little flies that I showed you earlier might also use the same mechanism for finding food. This was a breakthrough in the way that we study path integration because flies are considered a model organism, which means that they have been widely studied. And thanks to the efforts of countless researchers, we have tools to track down the neural activity of various cells in performing the behavior, which will shed light on the way that brain works. Now that we are at home and have more time for noticing these annoying little guys, I want you to promise me one thing. The next time that you see a fly indulging from a rotten fruit, please think before you swat.